Good morning, dear children. So, here is the explanation video of the chapter, the Browning version, which is written by Terrence Rattigan. Synopsis. This chapter deals with a story about a student and his conversation with a teacher. The story is an excerpt from the Browning version. It is in the form of a dialogue between a student and a teacher. The conversation presented in the story is light-hearted and describes the perception of the student about teachers and how he expresses this to another teacher. This story brings out flavors of friendship, bonding, and another side of schooling, like punishments, teachers being a sadist. Sadist means a person who finds pleasure by giving pain to others. It is focused on a particular teacher named Mr. Crocker Harris, who is very strict and upright in his work. In short, we can say he is a very, very strict disciplinarian. So these are the characters. Frank, this is a one act play. So the characters of the play are first of all Frank. He is a young teacher. He teaches science in the school. He is a young teacher and has an openness to accept the perception of students since he is very young at age. So he really accept the perception of students. In the conversation, he is seen to be liberal with the student and tries to understand the mindset of the student. Taplow. He is a 16-year-old boy. He is a student who has come to do extra work for Mr. Crocker Harris. Taplow is a young boy with dozens of thoughts revolving in his mind about teachers, education system and science. He sincerely waits for the teacher to do extra work so that he is promoted to the next term. Mr. Crocker Harris, he is a middle-aged teacher though we don't see him in the play. He is a very strict teacher with no room for any mistakes. Mr. Harris does not let the student take his subject easily. He makes them to do the work without any excuse and has all the good qualities which are to the extreme as he does not compromise on anything. Then Millie Crocker Harris, she is wife of Mr. Crocker Harris. She seems to be polite and suggests Taplow that he should take a break and return back to her home in some time so that he can meet her husband, who expectedly will come back home late. So, the summary of the chapter, the scene of the play is set in a school. This is one act play, I told you earlier only. The play opens with a 16-year-old boy Tableau who has been detained by his teacher to compensate for his one day's absence. He is waiting for his teacher, Mr. Crocker Harris, who has not yet arrived. Another teacher, Mr. Frank, finds Tableau waiting in the room and starts talking with him. So Taplow he introduces himself and informs him that he is a student in the lower fifth grade. He feels that he would specialize in science next term if he gets promoted. He also tells Mr. Frank that Mr. Crocker Harris does not tell the students their results beforehand like the other teacher. From this particular line we can easily understand that the other teachers of the school they declare the result or disclose the results to the students beforehand. Mr. Frank is surprised. So he's surprised that Taplow doesn't know about his result. Then he tells him that it's the rule that the headmaster announces the result on the last day, but that's not a criteria. So he just tells him this is the rule of the school that the result is declared by the principal of the school on the last day of the school. But he says that this is not a criteria. He could have told the result. Taplow says that it is only Mr. Crocker Harris who abides by this rule of not telling the students about their results before they are officially announced. And none of the teachers they follow that rule, only Mr. Crocker Harris he abides by the rule of the school because he is a strict disciplinarian and that's why he doesn't declare the results before. Mr. Frank asked Taplow whether he would pursue science if he gets a favorable result. Taplow is elated by the thought, so Mr. Frank laments sadly that he gets all the poor students. So Mr. Frank asks him if suppose he gets his remove and he is promoted to the next term, what will he opt for? So Taplow very elated he says that he will opt for science. To this Mr. Frank says that he is really really very sad because he always gets very lazy student in his science stream, and moreover he doesn't like the science he teaches in the school. But Taplow says that he cut the conversation in between, and Taplow tells Mr. Frank that he really loves science. That's why he want to opt for science, because he's extremely interested in science. Moreover, he would not have to read useless plays like the Eggman. And so Mr. Crocker Harris, he teaches the classics. He's a classics teacher. He teaches the plays, or you can say the literature. So he teaches the Greek literature, and Agmenon is a play which is written by Aeschylus. Mr. Frank is a bit astonished at the thoughts of Tableau about the Agmenon, thinking that he has gone too far. Tableau corrects himself, saying that the plot is good, but the way it is taught is terrible. So when Tableau realized that he has talked too much about Mr. Crocker Harris and said negative things, he just corrects himself and he says that the book Agman or the play Agmanon is not bad, but the thing is the way it is taught in the class, he does not like that. Taplow, on the other hand, finds the study of Greek play Agman muck. He finds it rubbish. His objection is to the way the play is taught to them, just a lot of Greek words strung together and 50 lines if one gets them wrong. So he says that it's a Greek play and all the Greek words are there, and if any of the students get a single word wrong, then he has to write that particular word 50 times. So, all these are the things due to which he finds the play Agmenon rubbish. Taplow's answers show that he is feeling a bit bitter. Frank is surprised that Taplow has come in to do extra work even on the last day of the school. So he's very much surprised why he's here on the last day of the school, and he's really shocked to see that he has come to do the extra work in the school. Extra work means punishment. Taplos says that he missed a last day last week when he was ill, so he has to put in extra work. So he just tell him the reason why he is here. Since he has missed one day last week, he didn't come to school for one day, that's why he has to come to school to do an extra work. Mr. Crocker Harris has asked him to do extra work. He also tells them he also tells him that if he would have not been called here, he would be playing golf, and the weather is also quite fine to play golf. He knows that Mr. Crocker Harris must be quite busy then, as he is leaving the school for good the next day. So he really wonders why he has called him, because he must be busy, as it was the last day for Mr. Crocker Harris, because he is leaving the school and going to some other place. The conversation then shifts to Mr. Crocker Harris. Taplow had asked him the previous day if he had given him a good division, and he said that he had given Taplow exactly what he deserved, no less and certainly no more. So Frank just convinces him, or just tells him that since he is a good boy and he has come here on the last day of school to do extra work, he is pretty sure that Mr. Crocker Harris is going to give him good marks. To this, he says that yesterday only he asked Mr. Crocker Harris about his remove. Then he said that he has not given him no less marks, or certainly not more marks. He has given him exactly the marks he deserves. Taplow is afraid that he might have marked him down rather than up for taking extra work. The man is hardly human. So, according to Taplow, Mr. Crocker Harris is inhuman, as he doesn't have any feeling for anyone. Frank then encourages Taplow to repeat the remarks of Mr. Crocker Harris, because whatever remark he has given to him, Taplow has imitated that. So again, his teacher Frank asks him to imitate in his voice. Frank does not find his imitation up to the mark and asks him to read his Aeschylus and be quiet. Frank suggests to Taplow that he might cut the class and play golf, as Mr. Crocker Harris has not turned up. So he asks Taplow at what time Mr. Crocker Harris has asked him to come to school. To this, Taplow tells him that at 6:30. So he says since his teacher is not here on time, so he could just cut and go and play golf. Taplow is shocked at the suggestion as he can't think of ever doing so because he was so scared of Mr. Crocker Harris that he can't think of disobeying him. Frank then tells him that he really envies Mr. Crocker Harris for the effect he has on the boys because the children were really scared of him. They seemed scared to death of him. Taplow says that Croc is not a sadist. Croc means Crocker Harris is not a sadist like other masters. So Taplow reveals this that here in the school there are teachers who are sadists. That means who find pleasure by giving pain to the student. And Mr. Crocker Harris is not like that. He cannot be sadist because sadist means you have to show your emotions, and Mr. Crocker Harris doesn't believe in showing emotions to others. He is shriveled up. He is like a hard nut and whose all emotion is inside only. He seems dry like a nut and hates people to like him. And he was a kind of teacher who doesn't like that any of the students should like him. Still, Taplow likes him, in spite being very strict, very cranky. Still, Taplow really likes Mr. Crocker Harris. Sometimes Mr. Crocker Harris sees it and he shrivels up even more. So, according to Taplow, Mr. Crocker Harris knows that Taplow likes him, that's why he just shrivels up. Taplow then relates an incident when his master related one of his classical jokes in the class. Nobody laughed, as they couldn't understand it. Taplow laughed as he knew he had meant it as funny. He felt sorry for his master for having made such a poor joke. So just he was narrating an incident in of the class. He told Mr. Frank that one day in the class, Mr. Crocker Harris just cracked a joke, and none of the students of the class could understand his joke. Neither Taplow could understand his joke. But he laughed because, according to him, his teacher meant to be funny. That means, according to his teacher, he has cracked a joke, so everybody should laugh at it. He thought of that according to the teacher, the joke was funny, so he laughed. But Mr. Crocker Harris, he just ridiculed Taplow for this. He asked Taplow, since he has laughed on his joke, he asked Taplow to come in front of the class and explain that joke to the class so that others could laugh at it. But the truth was, Taplow couldn't do so because he too didn't understand the joke. Taplow has forgotten the joke but offers to imitate the reaction of Mr. Crocker Harris. The laughter of Mr. Frank encourages Taplow to do so. Frank seems to enjoy the joke and asks Taplow to tell it to others. So, two incidents are there where we find that Mr. Frank was wrong. Being a teacher, he was wrong because he was encouraging Taplow to imitate the teacher. That means he was just teaching him to disrespect his teacher, right? So he shouldn't have done so. There, in these two instances, Mr. Frank was wrong. In the meanwhile, Millie Crocker Harris enters. She is already, I told you that Millie Crocker Harris is wife of Mr. Crocker Harris. She is a thin woman in her late 30s. She is smartly dressed, unlike other schoolmaster's wife. She comes in unnoticed, so nobody notices when she comes in. Taplow and Mr. Frank is busy in their conversation. Frank and Taplow are surprised to see her. Taplow is afraid that she might have overheard their joke. So, if she told her husband, Taplow's division would be in danger. Frank dismisses his fear. Millie tells Taplow that her husband is at the Bursars and might be there quite a time. She says that if he were Taplow, she would go. Since Mr. Crocker Harris was not there on time, Millie asks him to go away from here, and she just tells him that if she would have been in his place, she would have gone. Taplow is filled with doubt. He says that Mr. Crocker Harris had especially asked him to come, so he did not dare to move from there. Millie then suggests that he might run away for a quarter of an hour and come back. So she just suggests him that since it will take time for her husband to reach here, to be here, so he just can go for an hour and come back. Taplo is still uncertain and wonders what will happen if he gets there before his arrival. So he's really scared that suppose if Mr. Crocker Harris reaches the place before his arrival, then what will be the consequences? Millie offers to take the blame. She then hands him over a prescription and asks him to go to the chemist and get it made up. Thus, he can do a job for him. Taplo agrees and leaves the room. So she just gives a prescription to him and tells him to go and get some medicine from the chemist shop. In this way, he can do a job for him. So he will not be scolded by him. With this, we come to the end of the chapter. Please go through the chapter, and if any doubt, feel free to ask. Till then, have a great day. Bye bye.